recently we've been working with organisations like large insurance organisations who really want to know, when we all go back to work, when we emerge from this COVID crisis, you know, we all know people are going to be tired. We know people are going to have brain fog. We know that all the change associated with that is going to cause stress because people don't like change. Even if they want to go back to work, they still have to get used to going back to work and so on. And we've been asked, what's that likely to do to incident figures? And the answer is, it's probably not going to do incident figures any good. The relationship between having a problematic mindset and safety is complicated, because different people respond in different ways. So for example, people who are feeling depressed, some people have learned that actually a good way of dealing with that is to go out and be really pro-social and helpful to others, and that helps them. Other people can get really hyper-focused on certain things, and that can be useful, or they can get hyper-focused on trivial things which kind of blind them to bigger risks around them. So it's really difficult to actually fully understand the relationship between mindset, mental health and stress and accidents. But what we can say is that on balance, you're not far wrong if you say that people who are having a bad day at work, if people who are really struggling, are something like twice as likely to have an incident and half as likely to contribute something positive to the organisation. In the previous two videos, I've really tried to make the case that this whole piece around mental health, stress and well-being is a win-win. If we get that right, we get all sorts of extra things that are of benefit to the organisation. We get empowerment, we get greater above the line or discretionary effort, remembering of course that compliance itself is often discretionary. We get more creativity, we get more brother's keeper behaviour. But what I want to do is in this last piece is just take it back to absolute basics. Both Jason and myself started very much in the world of safety. And of course there is a link between these issues and safety. And for three reasons. The first reason is people who are really struggling are much more likely to be distracted. The second reason is people who are struggling are more likely to be fatalistic. And we know from the Heinrich's principle that the more work you put in, the more luck you're likely to get and the less luck you're likely to need. And the third reason is people who are struggling can be difficult to work with. So they're much more likely to actually create risk around themselves by their mindset and by the way they interact with other people and the way they interact with machinery and so on. People can get angry and impetuous. Jason and myself have come up with a thing called our Fatalism and Intolerance of Situational and Organisational Stresses Index. Jason likes to talk about this when he gives his famous talks. And what that is about just how much of a bad mindset you might take into a situation and the impact that might have on safety. So Jason, for example, points out that he was extremely aware of how much of a risk he was taking on the day that he fell off the roof, but he points out that he was really reasonably fatalistic about it and in a really bad place. And what he basically says is he had technically a high FI score. That really brings us to the end of the three pieces. Some of you, of course, will have worked out that what Jason's doing with his FI index is to set up a slightly rude joke as people will work out what FI actually stands for. But the serious piece is that whilst in his talks that gets a big laugh and everybody recognises it, what we found is organisations are actually very comfortable running toolbox talks, which is essentially a talk about these sorts of issues and then asking, anybody out there got a high FI score? Because if you've got a high FI score, we'd really like to talk to you about it and how we can help you with that. And it's that really down-to-earth, practical application of this stuff in a supportive and adult-to-adult way that really helps us come up with the solutions and engage people in practical ways of going forward and striving towards having a good day at work and not having a bad day at work and the consequences that can flow from that.